Hi everyone, NETX5 here, and I'm joined by Film Guru. So for this video, I'm doing something completely different. Instead of a typical review, I'm doing a comparison video, and in this video, we'll be talking about which film is better between the original Cape Fear or the remake. So out of the gate, both films are great. Both films were good at the time periods that they came out in. The original Cape Fear came out in 1962, and in some ways, this film is a bit of a Hitchcock movie, even though it's not directed by him, as it has a lot of the trademark camera angles that he used, and it also had a music score that was composed by Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah, so like with the original Cape Fear, it's like it came out not long after Psycho, and you can really see that they took a lot from that. Even though it has the camera angles, it just doesn't have the suspense building that Hitchcock would usually do, I suppose.
Yeah, like it was still tension filled, like there's some of that, but I think we agreed while watching the film that this film is more of a clone of a Hitchcock film, where it takes a lot of his styles and trademarks. At least with the remake, that film felt like a tribute to Hitchcock.
Yeah, especially with the camera work. And the suspense that he built with it, I thought was really great.
And I think we're both in agreement when we say that the remake is the better of the two. The remake definitely has more elements that make it, you know, leaps and bounds better than the original. Because the original is definitely a simple story. It's about, like, this criminal that's stalking his family. The remake definitely has more intricate layers added to it, and, like, definitely elaborates and explains things more that, you know, the original kind of, like, left unanswered.
Yeah, and the motivations for the characters, I think, in the remake make a lot more sense than they do in the original. Just the choices that are made, and it is a bit more full-on with its violence, I guess. But it serves a purpose. All the violence serves a purpose within the story.
Yeah. So in comparing the characters, like, everyone does a good job. There's not one bad character performed terribly by anyone. But what we'll do now is do a comparison of the actors who played the characters and see which one did a better job. So starting with the main character, played by both Gregory Peck and Nick Nolte. For me, I think Gregory Peck does a better job. With Gregory Peck, he definitely has that family man image where, like, he loves his family and will do anything to protect them. Nick Nolte's version is definitely interesting, as he's a bit more shadier and a bit more scummier, as he has a mistress and he's not a loving father to his daughter. For me, it's really who gives the better performance. Nick Nolte definitely is flawed, as is Gregory Peck, but I think Gregory Peck, while he's not as strong a character as Nick Nolte, he's definitely performed better, I think.
Yeah, well, I think Gregory Peck adds a kind of a, you know, a realistic aspect to it. Like, you believe he's this lawyer and stuff like that. But I think a lot of his motives don't quite make sense, and I don't know if I buy him as this everyman who becomes a hero type thing, where Nick Nolte, because of his shadiness, you feel he could be a man who could kill this guy. He could be, where Gregory Peck, you just don't feel that. You don't feel that threat, where Nick Nolte is quite crazy and unpredictable.
Yeah, could just snap at any time.
Yeah. So that's why I think Nick Nolte's interpretation of the character I liked a little more, I guess.
In comparing the mother and daughter characters, remake wins handily, because Juliette Lewis and Jessica Lange are just better for one simple reason, and that is because there's just more to their characters. With the original, they're just typical characters, nothing special, no real character moments that make them stand out. They're as generic as you can get.
Yeah, it's that American, wholesome American Pie type thing where they're just... There's not a lot of depth to them in the original film, but the remake, you know, Jessica Lange and Juliette Lewis bring such depth and realism and interesting elements to those characters.
With Jessica Lange's version, you can definitely tell that, you know, like, the spark she had with her husband is gone, and she no longer feels love for him. And she feels unfulfilled as well. It's like she's stuck in this marriage with a guy who's, like, sneaking off behind her back.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that's... I like the conflict between the family, and it's not like the original where it's, you know, it's a very wholesome family. I like the conflict. It makes it more realistic, I think.
And that's what Martin Scorsese was trying to go for, because that's one thing he didn't like in the original, where the family was too happy. And with the film he directed, he definitely wanted to have more tension and friction between the family, where the father is shady and doing sort of bad things, and, like, the rest of the family as well, they're dealing with, you know, personal turmoil. And now we're going to compare Robert Mitchum and Robert De Niro, and easily Robert De Niro is the best version of this character.
Yeah, I tend to agree that, because they added a lot to him. He's quite intense and terrifying.
Yeah.
But I think Robert Mitchum was just a bit too cool for that character, and he did have great moments in it, and he spent the last probably 30 minutes of the film without his shirt on, but I just felt that, yeah, De Niro was more intimidating, and you really felt that this man was capable of anything, and it was terrifying that way because you didn't know what he was going to do next. So yeah, I agree. I think De Niro does a much better job of that character.
Because yeah, with the story about the criminal haunting this family, in the original, the criminal was in prison for 8 years, and 8 years is like long time, but not as much. But with the remake, it's 14 years, and that's like a long stretch of time. And he's definitely wanted to seek revenge against the Nick Nolte character because of that.
Yeah, well, he's been thinking about it for those 14 years, and this all these things that happened to him in prison as well, bad things, and he learnt to read, and there's just a lot to his character within that, and it just feels like you believe this character. And I love the addition of the tattoos that they put on him in the remake that they didn't have in the original. Sort of made him a bit more creepy.
And they definitely made him more of a smarter character as he read in prison, and he pretty much outsmarted like Nick Nolte's character at every corner. In the original, it's just a criminal who just gets out of prison, and he doesn't really do much. Like, there's not much to the character to begin with.
He doesn't actually do anything to anyone until later in the film. It's just people thinking he's doing things.
In comparing the finales of both films, definitely the remake has the better one. With the original film, that just felt too huge and too over the place, where there's 3 different locations where this finale takes place: at the house, in a swamp, and on the boat. Where in the remake, it's just on the boat, which is like small, self-contained, tells a better story.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I think it's much better in the remake because the original, the fact that Gregory Peck's character sort of uses his family as bait and just sort of sits back and waits, I just didn't think that was really great. Where in the remake, it's sort of, they don't really use them as bait. They just sort of
trying to run away.
Yeah, trying to get away, and it just works a lot better. And it's more claustrophobic, and it's more intense having it just on this boat rather than all the other locations. And it just works a lot better, I think, for the story they're telling.
In comparing the cinematography, like I mentioned earlier, both films try to go for the Hitchcock style, but I think the remake does the cinematography better. With the original, there are some weird type of shots where they try to go for the Hitchcock zoom, where in some cases it doesn't work. Where with the remake, Scorsese knows how to effectively use these zooms. And he also uses a bunch of experimental type of shots, where it's like, there's a lot of like stuff in reverse. And in the finale on the boat, there's like the big spinning camera, like the camera just frequently just going like, over the place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he has great control of the camera, knows what to do with it and how to use it. Where in the original, they were trying different things, but like you said, the zoom, it goes in and pulls out, and then it just doesn't really work or make sense why they're doing it like that. Where I think the remake sort of takes advantage of that and uses it quite well. And yes, he has a lot of experimental stuff, not just with the camera, but like processing and just a variety of things that they use within the sequences that are quite inventive, and stuff going reverse and different colors, and he's sort of experimenting and trying different things, and it's the first time I've really seen Scorsese experiment in that way. So that's why I think the camera work stands out much more in the remake than it does in the original.
So yeah, in conclusion, while both films are fantastic, we both agree that the remake is better. Like, the original film definitely for its time was, creepy, well done, and interesting. But with the remake, not only is that technically better, but I think it told a better story that had, different layers to it, and also had a bit of a mystery to it, as it left a lot of things up to the audience to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the remake does it much better. It tells a better story. It's a more engaging story. Things make a bit more sense. You sort of want to follow this family, even though they're dysfunctional. You want to follow them on the journey. You want them to survive the encounter they have with Max Cady. And with the original, it is a solid film, and it's definitely of its period, and it's trying different things. It was sort of in the vein of a noir film, which I never really thought about, but it actually has a lot of those elements to it. But I just feel, the remake handled everything a lot better, and the story made much more sense, and it was just engaging and fun sort of movie, I guess.
So yeah, while we've said the remake is better, what we're going to do now is just give our score for each of the films. So yeah, with the original Cape Fear, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, for the original Cape Fear, I'd give it 4 out of 5.
And with the remake, I'm going to give Cape Fear a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5, and this is Film Guru. Thank you for watching.